thank you for coming once again to Lunch and Learn, sponsored by the Friends of the Rogers Public Library. And with no further ado, Arkansas Game and Fish Commission with Jordan Bevil. Yes.
All right, welcome you guys. Has anybody ever been out to our nature center? Have you guys gone out to our nature center yet? So we've got 63 acres out there. We just opened in December, so we're coming up on our 1-year birthday. It is North 40th Street in Springdale. So if you type it in or whatever, it may want to take you to south. Make sure it's north. It's North 40th Street. So you can take Wagon Wheel exit or exit 73 and turn at that stoplight by Patrick's Burgers and just keep going straight till you run into us. We have an outdoor archery range out there, so people come out and shoot during daylight hours. Indoors, we help teach bow and arrow, BB guns, air rifles, and so that's on the weekends from 2 to 4. And then inside, we have lots of hands-on things. We have our bobwhite quail in there. We've got our timber rattlesnake, which is real pretty. You can say a snake's pretty, it is. He's real pretty. And then we've got our aquarium and whatnot. So we're out there. A lot of people still don't know that we're there, but we are out there. So that is my home base. That's where my office is. I travel around and do programs like this. Okay, so I'll teach hunter ed, boater ed, animal programs, conservation, anything and everything Arkansas related. I get to go out and travel to different counties and do that. So today we're going to talk a little bit about conservation, and then I brought some hands-on stuff because I don't know if you're like me, I like to be able to be more hands-on. It's a lot better for me. So I've got a video. It's about a 12-minute video, and then we'll talk a little bit more. So Game and Fish created this video on our 100-year anniversary, and they did a really good job about describing everything.
There is a delight in the hardy life of the open. There are no words that can tell the hidden spirit of the wilderness, that can reveal its mystery, its melancholy, and its charm. The nation behaves well if it treats the natural resources as assets, which it must turn over to the next generation increased, and not impaired in value. Conservation means development, as much as it does protection. Theodore Roosevelt. In the early 1900s, President Roosevelt held a White House conference on conservation. As concerns about natural resources and wildlife grew, Americans were spreading west, replacing vast forests with cities, cropland, and pastures. Arkansas was changing, especially the wildlife. Elk, bison, and swan were completely gone from the state. Ducks, quail, and fish were harder to come by. Something had to be done. In 1915, Act 124 was signed into law, and the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission was born.
In 1916, Arkansas's first game wardens were hired for $80 a month, and they had to provide their own horses. Times have changed, and so have our tools, but the call to protect our state's wildlife and natural resources never will. I take a lot of pride in knowing We're all carrying on the legacy of those original 9 wardens.
In 1918, the Migratory Bird Treaty Act was passed. Unregulated hunting had caused populations of many bird species to decline sharply, and market hunting posed a similar threat to North America's waterfowl. The act set federal regulations on the hunting of migratory birds. And nearly 100 years later, that means plenty of ducks for us today.
During the 1920s, the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission took steps to increase the deer population in our state. As late as the 40s, the deer population remained bleak in Arkansas. Hunting was closed in several counties. But progress was being made, and with the help of the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, record harvests have become the norm with each deer season. One of the state's oldest and most successful fish hatcheries was dug by hand and by mule right here in 1928. As director of the Game and Fish Commission's Fisheries Division for many years, some of Joe Hogan's innovative principles for raising fish in ponds and transporting them across the state are still practiced today.
In 1937, the Pittman-Robertson Act provided federal assistance for projects to restore, enhance, and manage wildlife resources. Arkansas has used millions of dollars over the years for habitat projects just like this one.
In 1945, Amendment 35 became effective, making the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission an independent state agency. This gave the commission much needed stability and ushered in the way we still do business today.
This place is legendary among duck hunters. Thanks to the foresight of game and fish managers and commissioners nearly 70 years ago, this place is now known as one of the best places in the world to hunt mallards and flooded green timber. Alameda is one of the greatest places for the public to come hunt, and we're very fortunate to have it.
Thanks to the Dingell-Johnson Act signed in 1950, when you make purchases like this, you're actually giving back to fishing in our state.
In 1951, this beautiful place was completed. It's been stealing the hearts of fishermen for generations.
At the request of the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, NBC came to film a live duck hunt in 1956. And more than 250,000 ducks filled the air in front of the cameras on that day, and outdoorsmen have been flocking to our state ever since. 7 years later, I produced the first of many long-running fishing shows shot here in Arkansas.
How about that?
That's pretty solid, yeah. Appreciate your help.
Yes, sir.
Now technology has really changed, but the thrill of filming the great outdoors never will.
We were known as the bear state long before we were known as the natural state, but black bears were almost hunted completely out of the state of Arkansas. Today we have over 5,000 bears in the state, thanks to the reintroduction effort in the 1950s and 60s. This reintroduction effort is recognized as the most successful reintroduction of a large carnivore in history. And we're very proud of that.
In 1971, hunter education classes began in the state of Arkansas. First and foremost, the Arkansas Game and Fish wants to make sure every hunt ends safely. It is something that has given me peace of mind and helped me to enjoy our hunting even more.
Can you imagine this beautiful spot being underwater? That's what would have happened had dams been put in place in the late 1960s. In part, thanks to the Arkansas Game and Fish, this became America's first national river, the Buffalo National River. Hundreds of thousands of people come to the Buffalo National River every year.
Elk once roamed Arkansas far and wide before the settlers transformed the landscape. Against the odds, the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission brought the elk back beginning in 1981. By 1998, the herd had grown large enough for a limited hunt. I got this one in 2004.
We're known for our miles of trails, wild game, and breathtaking views. When the 1/8 cent conservation sales tax passed in 1996, it gave the Game and Fish Commission much-needed funds to keep creating the habitats and improving the quality of wildlife our state reveres so much. It's nice to know that everyone in the state has a hand in helping nature.
I started my boat company right here in Arkansas. And in 2001, Game and Fish made boating safer for everyone by instituting boating education courses.
In 2001, the first of 4 Arkansas Game and Fish Nature Centers opened in Pine Bluff. Part classroom, part museum, part playground. These nature centers offer visitors walking trails, exhibits, and hands-on fun.
My love of fishing started long before we founded the Ranger Boat Company. In 2012, the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission resolved the minimum flow issue with the assistance of a lot of people. Now, trout have the habitat and conditions below Bull Shoals Dam to grow and thrive, and will benefit generations to come.
More than 100 years later, it is our mission to continue to carry out the legacy President Roosevelt once spoke about. Cherish these natural wonders. Cherish the natural resources. Cherish the history and romance as a sacred heritage for your children and your children's children.
This is our Arkansas.
My Arkansas.
My state.
This is my outdoors.
My weekend.
My life.
This is my everything.
This is my calling.
This is my legacy.
Thank you, Arkansas Game and Fish Commission.
You make the deer woods great.
You make the fishing great.
You make my state great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arkansas Game and Fish Commission.
Thank you for protecting our most valuable resource for 100 years.
So like I said, they did a really good job whenever they first created this video. And I mean, it talks about everything. What we are in game and fish. Everything they said, that's why I love my job. I left for a little bit, came back. I taught for about 6-7 years in 2 different schools. And then this came about, and I get to do all the fun stuff. So I get to teach about animals. I get to take kids kayaking, canoeing. You know, I get to teach hunter ed, boater ed, making sure everyone's safe, and doing all the fun stuff. So like they said, so first thing, what is conservation as opposed to preservation? So Game and Fish, we are a conservation agency. So we want people to get out, to go hunting, to go fishing, to go floating, to do those kinds of things. We want them to use our resources. But we want them to use them wisely. We don't want over-harvest. We don't want under-harvest either, because it both hurts. Okay? Preservation is more so like state parks. They want everything to kind of stay the same. Just like it is, we're not going to use it, we kind of want it to stay the same. If we did preservation, we're going to have a lot of disease, we're going to have a lot of, especially, we're seeing it with the deer right now. We've got a lot of deer. They're everywhere, okay? You see them all over the place, okay? If we were to say, oh, we're not going to do any more hunting seasons, we're going to preserve our deer population, it would just get worse, okay? We're going to have a lot of disease, and eventually they're going to starve themselves out because there's just not enough resources for them. So Game and Fish, we are conservation. We want people to get out. We want you to enjoy it. Arkansas is beautiful, especially right now. The leaves are starting to turn. This is my favorite time of the year. I love to go out and hike, especially right now. And I love to go and hunt as well. But it's pretty. That's what we try to get, especially kids. If you don't like to hunt or fish, yes, we hope you do. That's our mission. But if not, we just want you outside. We want you outside and enjoying it off the phones, off the games now, the video games, TV, all that kind of things that kids are overwhelmed with right now. We just want people to get out and enjoy it, whether it's birding, hiking, climbing, hunting, fishing, whatever it is. So we were created in 1915, so before that, there was no regulations on hunting, fishing, things like that. So as you were saying, a lot of the animals, a lot of the wildlife that we had in Arkansas, it was going by the wayside. It was either extremely hard to find or they were going extinct and out of the state. Okay? In 1944, that's when our officers came about. That's when legally they had rights to be able to say, no, you can't do this, you can't do that, this is the way that we're supposed to do it. Before that, yes, we had Game and Fish, but we really didn't have any of the power to be able to enforce anything until 1944. Our conservation sales tax came about in 1996, went to effect 1997. So our conservation sales tax, when people come into our nature center, they'll come in and say, well, how much does it cost? Well, it's free. All the programs that we do are free for the public. So our hunter ed, boater ed, animal programs, whatever it is, it's free for the public. And that's because you're already paying for it with the conservation sales tax. Okay, so you've already paid into it, so now it's our opportunity to give back to you. So we get about 45% goes to game and fish and state parks. We both get about 45% of that sales tax. The Arkansas Heritage Commission and Keep Arkansas Beautiful get the remaining 10%. I think now they've combined the two, and so they split the remaining 10%. So us and state parks get the majority of it, and that's all going back into wildlife, going into education, going to our officers to get them equipment that they need, going into fisheries, our wildlife, biologists, everything like that. It's coming back to you guys. Amendment 75, this is where we get our nature centers. They're our educational centers. So we've got the nature center up here. We've got one in Springdale, in Yaleville. We've got one in Little Rock. We've got Ponca's, our educational facility. It's about an hour away from here. Okay. We have all these facilities that kids of the public can come in and they can see it. It's for free. There's a lot of hands-on things. Kids learn a lot better if they can put their hands on. They're going to touch it anyways, so you might as well let them do it anyways. Go ahead and say, yes, you can touch this. You can interact with it. Okay, you can manipulate these things. That way you're understanding it better. So our nature centers, our educational centers, we want school groups to come in. That's our bread and butter. We love to see the kids in there coming around, and you can see how excited they get. They're laughing. Yes, it gets a little loud, but we love it. We're hearing all that excitement. We're seeing how excited they are doing the programs, especially if they come and they want to do an archery program. A lot of them, they've never shot a bow before. So they're a little nervous at first, or they get a little upset. The first time they hit that target, you can see that smile on their face and they're hooked. They do not want to leave. And that's what it's all about for us. We love to see them making those memories because we know. And a lot of times they'll tell us, well, I'm going to tell my mom or dad or grandma, grandpa to bring me back on the weekend. I want to come back and do this or that. And that's what we love to hear. If we can start with the kids and they're going to, and we all know kids, they will pester you until you do something. Okay, especially if they really love it. I've got 4 nieces and a nephew. Yes, I know. If they want to do something, they're not going to let me hear the end of it until we go do it. But that's something that we love. It's free. It's something fun for them. And a lot of the time, they can stay there all day. Okay? They'll find an area in the classroom and they'll stay all day. This is what we're all about. This is what Game and Fish wants, is that education. All right, our black bears. So we were the bear state before we were the natural state. And we had thousands upon thousands of bears in Arkansas. But what happened? So in the 50s, we start settling. People start settling. We start building houses and facilities and things like that, taking away habitat. Taking away all this habitat, hunting them. Bear fur is real soft. Okay, it's real soft. They've got a lot of fat on them. It was good for fuel and to be able to cook, keep people warm and fed. And their fur, they're going to keep you warm. Okay? So it got to the point where we only had about 40 or 50 bear in the entire state. We used to have thousands upon thousands here. And now we have 40 to 50, and that's all. So what we did is we brought bears down from Canada to Minnesota. So we got 2 separate groups, and we brought them down. Then we released them around White Rock Management Area, 2 locations there, and 1 location in the Ouachitas. And we released them. And we saw how they went. And you can see right here, it's hard to kind of see. This is where all 40 to 50 bear were before we released them. So they were just in a very tiny location. It wasn't like there was 5, 10 here spread out. They were in one little area. So in Northwest Arkansas, we didn't have any. So how do we know that we were successful whenever we did this? We have bear season now. Okay? You can legally harvest a bear if you want. So if you want to harvest a bear, you have to call in and say, because we only allow so many tags. So right now, I think the last count that I heard, we had over 6,000 bear in Arkansas. So we went from about 50 bear total. Now we're back up to about 6,000. Maybe that number may be a little bit more. Okay, so you have to call in, say, hey, is there a tag? I'm at this location. Is there a tag available? They'll say yes or no, and that'll be your answer. If you can, then what we usually ask for is a molar. One of their pre-molars. If you harvest one, take that premolar out, they'll send you a little envelope. You put that tooth in there and then you'll send it on to us. That way we can do all kinds of DNA analysis and sex ed and know how old it was and that kind of stuff. So we can see if there's a lot more young bear being harvested, then we know that our population is growing. Now Myron Means, he's our black bear and large carnivore biologist for Game and Fish in the entire state. So he goes out every year and they do a bear den survey study. So they'll go out and they'll tranquilize mama a little bit. Most of the time she's still pretty out of it, but they'll tranquilize her a little bit, make it safe, and they're going to go in and pull out the cubs. And they're going to weigh them, measure them, do all those kinds of things. And if mama's not tagged, then they'll tag her. So whether that's a collar or the ear tag now, they'll tag her. And so they go through and they count how many and they collect all that data, and that's how we get our hunting regulations. So that's how we're going to determine how many tags we're going to give out that year. Now sometimes, and we had Myron came and he did a great presentation. If you're able to go see one of his presentations, I recommend it. He does a great job. So he came and he did a training for us and talked all about Arkansas black bears, and it was great. So sometimes, which I didn't know this until he told us, is sometimes mama will have her cub from last year with her and her new cubs. Okay. So like I said, I didn't know that until Myron told us. So if you're able to go and you want to learn more about black bears or any of our large carnivores, Myron, if you're able to go see one of his programs, he does a great job on that. He's got a whole bunch of knowledge on that. But black bears, super successful for us, okay? And black bears are the only types of bears that are native to Arkansas that we have. Okay, some people will say, oh, well, I saw a silver or whatnot bear. It's a black bear, it's just got a mutation in its gene. Okay, so black bears, they're all that we have. And yes, I've seen a silvery gray bear out at my cabin, okay, and it's just a mutation. This is all that we have here. Okay, and like I said, our black bear, an adult male, he stands on his hind legs, he's going to get over 6 feet and be about, a good healthy, about over 300 pounds. So they get quite large, okay? And I know we had one in Springdale, they had one in the communities in Springdale last year or 2 years ago. They climbed up a tree, okay, and they had to call Game and Fish, and we came and then relocated it. So they're even starting to move into the city just a little bit, just because we're losing habitat now, right? And a lot of people, they'll feed a cub or a smaller bear thinking, oh, it's cute, I'm gonna feed it. But what happens after you feed it for months on end, maybe a year, eventually that tiny cute cub is gonna turn into a big adult. Okay? And once you start feeding an animal, they become habituated to it. Trust me, if you start feeding me and I know I can get my meal there real easy, I'm going to come back every day. Because I don't have to go find it or fight with somebody else over it. Okay, same thing for the bears. They know. If you start feeding a little cub, it's eventually going to get to a big 300-pound bear. That's why we try to tell people, don't feed them. Okay, they do grow up just like anything. All right, our white-tailed deer. For a lot of people, especially kids, they can't believe we almost eradicated our white-tailed deer in Arkansas. They're everywhere right now. Okay, kids are amazed whenever we tell them this. But same thing, kind of like the bear. We only had, we got close to about 40 to 50 at one point. We did the same thing, except with these guys, we took them from different refugees in the United States. So we took a group from this one, we took it from probably, I think it was 5 different areas. So we got a big group, put them in cages, and then we released them throughout Arkansas. And now we all know they're everywhere, okay? I can remember whenever I first started hunting, we weren't allowed to kill a doe. Okay? And a lot of people can remember we weren't allowed to kill a doe. Well, now they have special antlerless doe hunts because we have so many. Okay? So the reason that we know that our rehabilitation efforts are successful is we have a hunting season. Deer, we have a hunting season. We've added another youth hunt this year. We've added a private lands hunt this year because we all know there are deer everywhere. Okay? And with our CWD now in the CWD zones, there's no antler restrictions on it. So that's a way that we can be able to harvest even more and hopefully take out the disease in them. But our deer, the reason they almost went to extinction is there were people that their jobs were to go out and hunt deer. And so they would hunt the deer, take it to a processor, the butcher would have it for the meat, the hides, all that kind of things, and then they would sell it. It got to the point that they were killing so many, the butchers didn't want them anymore. So they'd go out and they would kill them and they would let them lie. So it was just wasteful at that point. It was doing no good for anybody. And so that's where it got really bad that's how we almost got them to extinction. Because people were just going out and killing them because that was their job. Okay? And that was before Game and Fish came about. So once Game and Fish came about, we were able to set all the regulations and do all these things so that now we have all kinds of deer. And we harvest 200,000 a year, probably close to 250,000 a year now. And you get a lot of monster deer every year. Okay, so we know they've got good habitat, they're thriving, they're surviving, they're doing what they need to do. And this is where we get a lot of kids, that's what they go hunting for. That's something to get them into hunting because we do have so many different things for them. We've got the antlerless, we've got the youth hunt. So with our youth hunt, it's just for kids under 16. So 15 and younger can go on the youth hunt. And that's where a lot of our deer get harvested, and that's something that we love to see. We love to see kids with their first deer. And we've got a certificate that they can print off online, put their names and the date and all that, so kids enjoy it. But deer are another great rehabilitation effort. Great success. Now, we talk about we're a conservation agency, and some people don't like that, yes, we do hunt, we do fish. But our hunters and our fishermen, fisherwomen, they're our greatest conservationists. If you like to hunt, you like to fish, you're going to make sure that, yes, you do it, but you do it in a way that you can continue to come back year after year after year and do it, and your kids, your grandkids, your friends' kids, their grandkids, they're going to be able to come back year after year and still have those same resources. I know if I go out and I'm going to go hunting, or even if I'm going to go paddling, I don't want to have to see a whole bunch of trash down the river or worry about stepping on a glass bottle that got broke or something like that. So I'm going to make sure that I pick it up if I see any little bit of trash because I don't want to leave it there. I don't want to see that. And I know others don't either. We want to keep Arkansas beautiful, as our slogan says. Okay, so that's how the hunters, fishermen, especially a fisherman, they don't want their waterways polluted. So they're going to keep it as pristine as possible. Okay, so really our hunters and fishers, they are the biggest conservationists. So our Pittman-Robertson Act, that is what help funds our wildlife restoration, conservation, and hunter education programs. So when I do hunter education, all of my hands-on, we have firearms that don't have a firing pin in them. So the kids, adults, both, they can physically pick up that firearm and they can manipulate it. We have bullets that they're just an orange piece of plastic they can put in and they can see how the action works. If they've never held one before, they can see it. All of that's funded from the Pittman-Robertson Act. That's coming back to the kids. And I go to a lot of schools and I'm seeing it more and more now. A lot of the kids, they've never handled a firearm or been around one. And so now legislation passed, I believe it was in March, that hunter education can be taught in schools as part of a PE curriculum. So a lot of schools are going to that. They're teaching hunter ed as part of their coursework, which introduces kids to hunter ed, to firearm safety. So I go in and a lot of the kids will say, well, I don't want to hunt, I don't want to do this. Okay, that's okay, but you do need to know firearm safety. It's a good thing for everyone to learn about, to know about. So being able to have those resources for them to hold, to handle, some of them, they're nervous about it. They don't want to handle them. But once they understand this is safe, there's no firing pin, you can't hurt anybody with it, you can't hurt yourself, they hold it, they manipulate it, they get a little bit more comfortable with it. And eventually, some of them want to go and they want to go trap shooting or try it out or learn more about it. And so this is all coming about from the Pittman-Robertson Act. So that money comes from firearm sales, ammunition sales, and also, which a lot of people don't know, is it comes from archery sales. So buying bows, arrows, things like that, targets, that money's coming back into it as well. The Dingell-Johnson Act, It's for this is our fishing, so it helps with our fisheries to be able, our fisheries, they go out and they provide catfish and trout to a lot of different areas. I know like Springdale, like Bentonville, they stock with catfish and then trout in the winter months. So Dingell Johnson helps with them to be able to provide the funding to create those facilities as well. And it helps for the boat launch ramps. If we've got a boat launch ramp that's getting in disarray, those funds help us to be able to repair that as well, because we want people to go out on a boat and to fish and to do all that, as long as we want it to be safe. So how can you be a conservationist? Well, if you're already a hunter or a fisherman, you're buying licenses. Okay? You're already buying our licenses, so that money from the license sales, that's coming back to Game and Fish for us to be able to put back into animal restoration, wildlife habitat, things like that. But also we have, if you haven't seen, we have license plates. Every year we come out with a new license plate. Now, and they've got a variety. This year it's a perch, it's a sunfish. Okay. They've had the monarch, they've got the bobwhite quail. They've had a red fox. They've had so many different license plates. And that license plate actually helps support a scholarship fund. Okay, so that's going back to the kids to help them if they're going into some type of conservation field or wildlife field. Because the more that we can get kids involved, the better off we're going to be. Because we know that's where our future lies. Also, if you want to help, you can volunteer. Okay, our nature center, you know, we're less than a year old. We're coming up on our 1 year. We need volunteers. Volunteers are what help run nature centers. When I worked out at Fort Smith, we had a great group of volunteers that if we had school groups or if we had a special event, they came and they helped us and we were able to rely on them. We had some that they did their own programs. And so that kept us from being able to, maybe if they're doing their own program, we can go do another program. And we can service more people that way. I mean, we're always looking for volunteers, whatever that may be, however you can help. We've always got a place for everyone. Okay. Now our stream team's another area, so they go out and they educate groups and landowners strictly on Arkansas water bodies. Okay. And they do amazing work. So they'll go out, they'll do lake and river cleanups. So they'll get in canoes, kayaks, and they'll clean up all the trash along the waterways. They'll go and they do programs on the fish in the area. They'll do programs on the turtles in the area, snakes, all that kinds of things. So our stream team, they do a really good job as well. Essential part of ensuring healthy wildlife populations involves people. Agency programs geared toward the public generate awareness of ethical and sound management principles, whether it be educational programs, fishing, and hunting regulations, or environmental awareness. Working with people is just as important a factor in managing wildlife as any other. So yes, we're all about getting out and managing the wildlife and preserving that, but we can't do it by ourselves. Okay, so this is why we go out and we are talking to the public. This is my job. I go out and I talk to the public. And we need people. We need the help of people. We can't, if we just Game and Fish are the only ones that are doing these practices, we're not going to get very far. We want people to enjoy hunting and fishing and knowing the ins and outs of it just as much, because if people know about it, they know about nature centers, they're going to come out and support. If they know about different practices, different ways to volunteer, people are going to come out and volunteer and help promote that. We can get kids involved, they're going to do the same thing. They're going to grow up in that. They're going to tell their friends and all the adults that they know, hey, this is what I want to do. It can be something they look forward to. Especially with our wildlife officers, we all know kids love people in uniform, whether it's a firefighter, a police officer, our wildlife officers. They love to see that. They love to hear the sirens and do all that kinds of things. So the more that we get out in the public, the more people can see us and they're aware of us as well. So questions on any of that before we get to the fun stuff? Yes?
So there's volunteer opportunities at the Nature Center now?
Yes. Yeah, there are. I mean, we're looking for volunteers. We've got a lot of different programming coming up. We do a lot of programming on Saturdays that we have coming up. And now with Halloween coming up and the Christmas coming up, we're going to be doing special events for that. So any and all volunteers, we always need volunteers at the Nature Center. There's always something to do out there. Yes.
They're not game or fish, but what do you know and what are y'all doing about the monarch butterfly? Are you part of that preservation project?
We are part of it, so we're not the main ones with it, but we are part. So we are educating people on pollinators and what to plant in your garden, especially the master naturalists. They do a lot with us, and so we have a lot of volunteers with that. That'll come out and talk about pollinator plants and what to plant in your yard and things like that. And we have just kind of like our Wings Over Arkansas, where you document the type of bird. Same thing with butterflies. If you see them, things like that. We do a lot of make and take stuff, so we'll do butterfly feeders and things like that. So we are involved a little bit. That's not really our thing, but we are trying to help out any way that we can because it is wildlife. Like I said, the master naturalists help us out a lot. In Fort Smith, they have a butterfly garden, so it has all of that, pollinators and things like that. You said you had one?
Yes, I do. We used to have property in Stoughton, Wisconsin, who had Lake Kekonza. We are still in contact with some of those people, and they tell us that zebra mussels are taking over the lake. Are you doing any education towards boaters who transport this?
Oh, yeah.
Or the public? Are you doing any education on that?
Yeah, we are. We have had, well, back with COVID, we had to do most of our presentations were through Zoom. And we've done several Zoom presentations on zebra mussels, especially when we do our boater ed classes. We talk a lot about invasive species and the correct way to wash off your boat and do all that so you're not transporting them. And our fisheries does a lot with that because that's who it's affecting. It's affecting our fisheries folks. And so our fisheries does a lot. They'll go out and they have special programming for it.
It is very serious.
It is. And they even found it in some pet shops. Whenever you get the little algae ball, some zebra mussels were in that as well. And so we're having to do education on, be careful whenever you purchase that type of thing as well. So we are doing a lot of education that way as well. All right, now we'll talk about the fun stuff for a little bit, all the pelts. So we talked a little bit about our deer. So this is our deer pelt. I always get asked, where's his head? It's probably on a wall somewhere, if I was to guess. It's probably on a wall somewhere. It's probably somebody's trophy. Okay. Right now, muzzleload season just came in Saturday, so it'll run through Sunday. So we have muzzleload season coming in. Archery season will go in through, it goes through the end of February. Okay. So this is our deer. They're very coarse, very coarse. Okay. This is our black bear. Okay. Very soft. I harvested a black bear when I was 16 with a crossbow. I had a shoulder mount done of it, still just as soft as whenever and that's been over 10 years ago. And so it's still just as soft. So with these bears, a lot of people think, well, they hibernate in caves, and yes, that's true. But if they can get up in a tree, find a little cavity in a tree, that's where they're going to be. That's where they like to be. Okay. They are very comfortable in a tree. Okay? Their claws are very sharp, very good for climbing. If they can get, that's why a lot of people will call us and, oh, there's cubs stuck up in a tree, they're crying. I guarantee Mama is somewhere real close by and she's watching you. You see a bear up in a tree, your best bet is just to keep moving. Mama's somewhere close. She sent them up there for protection. Not a lot of things can climb a tree that's going to harm them. So they get up there, they feel comfortable up there. They'll go up there, they'll sleep up there, they'll eat up there. They're comfortable in a tree. Okay. Now, if you ever want to know, if you see a picture of a black bear, maybe see one off in the distance, I'm not saying get real close to the bear. I would not advise that. If you see a picture of one or you see it off in the distance and you want to know, well, is it an older bear or a younger bear? All you can tell are their ears. Everyone knows who Mickey Mouse is, right? His big ears. Everyone's seen Mickey's ears. If he's got big, fluffy ears like Mickey, it's a young bear. But if they've got little knobs on their head, just little nubs, it's an older bear. So if it's got little nubs, it's an older bear. If it's got the big Mickey Mouse ears, it's still fairly young. Okay? That's how people always ask us, well, how can I tell? That's your easiest way to tell. Now our black bears, they don't hibernate like you would think. It's not an entire winter-long hibernation. Yes, that may occur sometimes, but for the most part, we all know Arkansas weather is crazy. It can get really cold and then warm up for a couple of days and then get cold again. So if it happens to warm up, the bears can come out of hibernation for a little bit. They'll go and eat and do whatever. Okay. Or maybe the spring wasn't a very good spring, so they weren't able to get all the berries and the nuts or the fish that they needed to put on that fat. So if they don't have that fuel, they'll also wake up and have to go out and scavenge some more and find some more, and then they'll go back into their hibernation. So that's why whenever they do the bear den surveys, they do tranquilize Mama, just in case she happens to wake up or she's not in the full hibernation.
So at the nature center, do you have those sitting out where people can touch them?
We do have some pelts, yeah. We have it out in our classroom, especially for the kids. They love to see them. These I keep, because since I'm traveling, so we have two different areas. But yeah, we have some out that we allow them to pet. All right. We have two different foxes in Arkansas. We have the gray fox. Somebody told me he looked like a weasel. We have the gray fox, and then we have the red fox. Okay. This red fox, its fur is extremely soft. Okay. Extremely soft. Probably the softest, if not one of the softest furs that I have up here. Okay. These guys, this was when trapping was a big thing. Nowadays, trapping's not so popular anymore. People don't like to trap. They're not getting a whole bunch of money for the fur anymore. Most of the time it's farmers that are trapping nuisance animals and then they're relocating them. But when trapping was real big, this was a very prized commodity for people to get. It would go for a lot of money. And it's, like I said, it's very soft. Okay, women especially loved it as a scarf. These guys are very vocal. They're very, very vocal. There's a mama and her two babies that live in the Springdale community, And I was doing a presentation up there, and one of the ladies was telling me, yeah, Mama had crossed the street, and the two young ones were kind of playing, being kids. And she said, next thing she knew, Mama sounded like she was yelling at them to hurry up and get across the street. She was letting them know that they weren't listening and they needed to hurry up. Okay? They are very, very smart, very cunning. Okay? They can get into your trash, they can get into stuff just the same. It's why it's very hard to trap them too, because they are so smart. They have figured traps out. Okay. Our red foxes are slightly larger than our gray foxes. These guys, a lot of people mistake them for a red fox because they have that red tuft right here. Okay, but clearly it's quite a difference. Or as kids tell me, no, that's orange. Okay. It's a reddish orange. I'll give you that, okay? Our gray foxes, something that's pretty cool about them and unique, they love to be in trees. Okay, they'll climb a tree. Our red foxes, no, they're not going to.
So they can't climb trees, red fox?
I'm sure they could. They just prefer not to.
I see.
These guys, they're going to get up in a tree if they can. Because again, not many things can climb a tree. Not many, and they're not very big. Okay, so not many things that maybe would prey on them, or even us humans. I mean, it's gonna be a little difficult for us to try to climb a tree. They're gonna be able to go up pretty quick to be able to hide and do what they need to do. Again, these guys, they're smart. Okay, foxes are very smart, very cunning. His fur is a little more coarse. Right, like I said, the red fox, extremely soft. This is a bobcat. Whenever I go into schools, I always ask kids, what do you think this is? I had one kid tell me it was a leopard. I said, think Arkansas. We don't have any leopards in Arkansas. Okay, we're just doing native Arkansas stuff. But this is our bobcat. Okay, they are They're real pretty creatures. We've got a full mount of a bobcat at our nature center, and it's on a log and it's hanging over our aquarium, so it kind of looks like he's fishing. We thought it was funny. We thought it was cool. So these guys, just like your house cats, they have very, very sharp claws. They are a lot more nocturnal. You're probably not going to see them in the day. That's why a lot of people haven't seen bobcats before out naturally in the wild. They're very skittish. Okay? Just like a house cat. They don't want anything to do with us. Okay? Most of the time, if they see a human, they're going to run away. Okay? A lot of people are worried, oh, they'll attack me. No, probably not. All of these critters up here, including the bear, it's more scared of us than we are of it. If it sees us, it's going to go. I guarantee, I hike a lot. I'm sure I've walked right past a lot of bear and didn't even know they were there. Okay? They don't want anything to do with me. Okay? Now, if I were to mess with their cubs, yeah, that may be a different story. Alright? So, okay. This guy, typical demeanor of a house cat. Okay? He wants nothing to do with us. Going to kind of stay in the background. He's going to go and hunt his rabbits, his rodents, things like that. Okay? He has a very pretty pelt. I get wolf a lot. We don't have any wolves in Arkansas. Okay, this is our coyote. Okay, and he's very soft, and he looks like a dog. He looks like a domesticated dog. Okay, the reason for that, a lot of our coyotes nowadays, they're not. Very rarely will you find a full-blood coyote. Most of the time, it's a hybrid between a domesticated dog. Just because, again, we've urbanized a lot of areas. We've taken away that habitat. We've gone farther and farther into their habitat, so it's taken away their food sources, their homes, things like that. So they're doing the only thing that they know to do. They're trying to find that. So they're coming into the communities more. I know farmers really don't like coyotes. I understand that. They love chickens. Okay? It's easy for them. Again, if there's a pinned up area where they've got their choice of food, that's where they're going to go. Okay. Again, I'm sure everyone's heard a coyote howl. They're very vocal. Okay, and I kind of enjoy listening to them. They'll talk back and forth. We have a cabin out on the Mulberry, and for the longest time, we had a coyote that stayed kind of close to our cabin every year. For the longest time, we thought it was a male until we saw her one day with her babies. So we had named it Wiley, and we thought it was a boy. Then we had to change it to Wileyette. Okay, going out there, I was a kid. I enjoyed that. So she would stick around, and we would listen to her every night. We would sit outside and we would listen to her. That was what we enjoyed to do. Okay. Again, you see a lot of people, they predator hunt, and so they hunt coyote, and so they have the predator control sounds. If you've ever heard one of their sounds and it sounds like a dying animal, it does. It's eerie. Okay, a lot of people hunt coyotes, especially farmers. Okay, they're trying to protect their cattle. Especially if it's a chicken farm. Okay, but again, for the most part, if it sees us, it's not gonna do anything. It's gonna try to run away. But that's why if you see a domesticated dog and it kind of looks like a coyote, chances are it may be part coyote. It's very rare to find a full-blood coyote in Arkansas, just because of urbanization and us moving into their habitats. He does have a nice bushy tail. Does anybody know what this guy is?
Muskrat.
A muskrat. Good guess though. This is our nutria.
Oh.
Now, if I had a better pelt, this tail is going to be very long and rat-like. It's a nutria rat. It's going to be very long, rat-like, and it's going to have its coarse fur. So nutria were brought in from South America. They were brought up into the South and South America. They are a nuisance animal now, especially like in Louisiana and things like that. Louisiana, they have a lot of bayous and marshy areas. What a nutria does is they will, like our beavers, they're going to chew. Right? They're going to chew the logs. So Our beavers typically leave what looks kind of like a little toothpick point of the trees intact. A nutria will eat everything right down to the roots. So by eating the roots, there's nothing to hold on to the soil. So whenever, like Louisiana just had its hurricane, when that comes through, it's washing away a lot of their bayous and things like that, causing a lot of flooding, a lot of issues. So Louisiana actually has a bounty on their nutria. I think they get $5 a nutria. And there are people, they'll go out every night and they'll kill several nutria because there's so many down there now. Okay. Now, a cool thing about nutria, and I believe it's the only mammal that I know of, when you feel its fur, or her fur, her mammary glands are on the top. So you can feel them, those little bumps, that's her mammary glands. Okay, most mammals, it's on their belly. For a nutria, it's on its back. So this is really good if it's got its babies and it's swimming in the water. She doesn't have to stop and get on land if she's not close to her den yet and to feed. Because when she's feeding, she's very vulnerable. So this way, if she's able to swim to her lodge, her den, the babies can eat if they get hungry. And she doesn't have to stop. So it makes it more advantageous for her. And they're more coarse than our beavers. Okay, our beavers are a lot softer. Okay. And they've got that nice leathery paddle-like tail. And they use this tail. Okay, they'll slap it on the water to scare other animals, to scare people away, or to get the attention of their young. If you've ever heard a beaver slap its tail in the water, it's very loud, very startling. Okay, you want nothing to do with it if you hear that. Now our beavers are probably one of the cleanest mammals that we have. Okay, once they stop swimming or chewing or doing with it, they are constantly cleaning themselves, cleaning their faces, cleaning their paws, their bellies, everything. They are constantly cleaning. So believe it or not, they are very, very clean animals. Their incisors, just like the nutrias, continuously grow. Okay, so that's why they're chewing. They have to chew to keep their incisors down and to keep them sharp. Because if they didn't chew, they were going to grow out of control, and it's not going to be any good for our beavers. A lot of farmers will trap a beaver. Okay, they'll trap the beavers because they're damming up their only water source for their cattle, or sheep, or horses, or whatever it is. Otherwise, out at Osage Park in Bentonville, there are 2 beaver dams out there. One's, I don't know, probably from me to this front table away. The lodge is from the bridge, so you can walk on the bridge and look right at it, and they have their beavers there. They said they were going to put up a camera, I don't know if they have yet. And then the next lodge is a little bit further down, and the people at Osage think that it was the young from last year that went away and built their own little lodge away from mommy and daddy. Okay. So there are 2 separate lodges that if you want to see a beaver lodge, beaver dam, and it's out there at Osage Park. And it's pretty cool. It's the one by the bridge. It's quite large. It's very tall. This is probably my favorite Arkansas mammal. This is the river otter. They are real fun to watch. Right? They've got 2 separate layers of fur. Their inner layer of fur, that's closest to their skin, that's what's keeping them warm. So it's keeping them warm. This outer layer, they feel kind of oily. Yeah, that's going to help water from soaking right into them. Especially when it's a little bit chilly, the water's a little chilly like right now, that helps the water from going directly into their fur. Okay, it's going to roll off a little bit. They are very playful animals. Okay, they love to be around each other. They love to play. You usually catch them around the riverbanks. I've seen a river otter who there was a guy fishing, he threw in and he caught something. The river otter was watching him. He didn't know that. And the river otter jumped in and got his fish. And then took it away and just kind of held it there and looked at him like, see, I got it. Thank you. Yeah, he thought he was real cute. Okay. And he was. I thought it was funny. This past summer, I went with a friend and we went down to Louisiana, and we actually got to swim with about 2 6-month-old river otters, which was a lot of fun. And they chirp. They sound just like birds. We were sitting there and we kept saying, man, where are the birds coming from? Like, we keep hearing it. And the people there said, no, that's That's the otters. When they get excited or happy, that's their little chirp, and they sound just like birds. It was pretty cool to see. These guys, I love watching them. They're a lot of fun. If you see them at a zoo, they've always got a ball or something that they're rolling around in. They're a lot of fun. Our raccoon. Okay. Again, trapping was a big thing. A lot of people kept the tail for their hats. I know my cousin still has one. He loves it. They've got their chin rings on their tails. They've got their little bandit masks, their little Zorro mask on their face. Okay. A lot of people, they think, oh, they're mean or something like that, because most of the time on the pictures that they get, they're snarling. But most of those pictures are at night and the flash is on. If I'm walking somewhere, sitting outside at night, and you take a picture of me with the flash on, I'm probably going to look like that too. Okay? I'm not going to be happy that you just took a picture of me and the flash was right in my eyes. Same thing with them. Okay, they're really not. Yes, they get into trash. Okay? They're extremely smart. Again, if they can find a food source that's easy for them, why go elsewhere? That's why if you have dog food, cat food, bird seed, whatever it is outside, you better figure out how to lock it up, okay? Because their little paws, they can open just about anything. Again, they're smart and they figured it out. That's why a lot of people, they've got to have locks on it so that they physically, because they can't work a lock, they don't know your combination. Otherwise, they can probably get into it, okay? I've seen people who they're gone out to feed their cats and they have had a mama and her babies all washing their hands in the water dish. Okay. Raccoons, again, they'll constantly wash their paws. After every time they're going to wash their paw. So again, not bad critters. They're just smart. They find a food source and it's easy, and that's where they're going to go. This is a badger. Believe it or not, we do have these in Arkansas. Okay. At our nature center, on the ground, a lot of people miss it because everyone's looking up or at what's going on. But in our floor, we actually have a replica badger down in its burrow. And a lot of people, they don't know we have badgers because a lot of times you're not going to see them. Okay? They stay burrowed up. They've got the nice markings on their head. They've got very long and sharp claws. That's what they're using to dig to get into their burrows and also to defend themselves if they have to. Okay? I saw a video of a badger trying to get in someone's garage and they're having a heck of a time trying to keep it out. Okay? Because they're pretty big mammals. And they're pretty hefty, okay? Not an animal you probably want to meet if he's having a bad day. But we do have these, they usually stay burrowed. That's why a lot of people haven't seen a badger in real life. I haven't seen a badger out in the wild naturally. Okay, that's something that I'm hoping to get to see because I think it would be pretty cool. And see his white stripes.